Hello, everybody. This is Sharon Burch, founder of New Directions for Nurses and LiberatedNurse.com. We teach nurse coaches, consultants, and educators how to grow thriving businesses. Welcome to the Respectful Marketing Tips for Caring Nurse Entrepreneurs event. I often hear that nurse entrepreneurs need more customers, but they feel awkward and uncertain when they offer their services. So I've assembled a panel of nurse entrepreneur experts to share their experience and best tips with you. And I'd like to introduce you to today's guest, Dallas Piana.
Hello, everyone.
I've invited Dallas to this event because she's doing great things in digital marketing, particularly marketing through Facebook. Dallas is a former nursing director of a large medical center in New York City. And during the recession in 2008, she found herself without a position when she moved to Portland to be with her now husband, Mark. With no jobs in sight and being fascinated with the web, Dallas created a new career for herself in online marketing and sales. Now, with over 10 years of digital marketing experience, Dallas teaches coaches and service-based providers how to get paying clients using Facebook and email marketing. Her action-packed group coaching, mentoring, and implementation program takes students from social media infrastructure basics to building an audience, program development, nurturing relationships, and closing sales confidently. So, hi, Dallas.
Hi.
And before you start sharing your marketing tips with us, I'd like to help the audience get to know you a little bit. So would you like to share where you live now and what you like to do for fun?
Yeah, like my intro said, I was a New York City nurse for almost 29 years, hardcore, big medical centers, was on a burn unit for 10 years, if you can imagine that, the biggest burn center in the world right there in New York City. Yeah. And then I, kind of moved up the ladder in nursing, got promoted along the way. And then suddenly when I'm like 49 years old, an old boyfriend knocks on my door, sends me a letter and says, "Hey, how are you?" And before you know it, we meet and I'm out here in Portland. It was just like a moth to a flame. I knew this was going to be the man I was going to marry. Suddenly it all clicked. It didn't in my 20s when we first met, but it did in my end of my 40s, beginning of my 50s. This was the man for me. And I was ready and willing to jump out of New York City and get to Portland. So I'm living in a town just outside of Portland, about 10 miles outside of Portland, if you know Portland. And there is life after New York City, and it is gorgeous here, absolutely gorgeous here. I mean, one of the things we do, what I love to do, is get in the car, and my husband is a great sport about this. We pack a little lunch, we take the dog, and I've got this book of back roads in Oregon, and we just drive the back roads, and discover Oregon is so incredible. We're an hour and a half from the beach. We're an hour and a half from the snow mountain. We're, an hour, 20 minutes out in farmland. It's just extraordinary here. It's an incredible part of the United States. So that's what we like to do for fun, or at least I like to do for fun. And I drag my husband with me.
Get out in nature, and you have the mountains and the beach and the farmland, all of it right there.
Yeah. And now it's peaches season. You wouldn't believe the produce that is produced out here. Then on top of that, the flowers, there are so many flower farms. Oh, and the dahlias are going to be blooming. We're ready to go next week to go walk in the dahlia farms and just pick our dahlias. It's great out here. It's just incredible.
It doesn't
Never
sound
thought
like
I'd leave New York.
New York City.
Pardon me?
It says it doesn't sound like you really miss New York City.
Not at all. Not at all. I'm like done with the high heels. Yeah. Done with the, the suits, done with it.
That's great. Well, I'm sure that's going to be of interest to some of our listeners who have a different, their own version of a similar story in there. either thinking about going into business, or maybe they've already gone into business and they're working with the challenges of that, the growth curve and the learning curve of that.
It was a big growth curve. And, for all the, new people that are just starting out, you've got to be patient with it. It doesn't happen overnight. Just think about how, I'm going to talk from a nurse's point of view, because obviously that's what I know, but just think about it. When you were a new nurse, it took you 8 months to be precepted, just basically before you were let go, right? Like let go on your own.
Yeah.
So the same thing happens with building a business, a coaching business online. You need a mentor, you need a coach, and you need about 8 months to a year, hand to hand, being shown the ropes of what to do online. It's not innate, even though you might know the theory, you might have taken courses, you might have done YouTube videos or whatever, or all those free lead magnets. It's not manifesting into anything until someone shows you step by step what comes first, what comes second, what comes third, right?
Absolutely. The order of the steps is so important. And knowing the priority at each step, there's nuances that will just be missed if you didn't have a mentor right there to help guide.
Right. And unlike, healthcare, marketing, things are changing quickly in marketing, although the principles are the same. The marketing and sales principles are the same. How it's done on platform to platform and how each platform changes, we're renting space on these platforms. We don't own Facebook. We don't own LinkedIn or Instagram. We're just renting space out there. So, it could change at any moment.
And
right?
It does.
And it does.
Yeah, it really does. So how it's more like surfing, than you can't, it's not just like following a policy and procedure in a hospital that pretty much stays. Those changes, things change slowly, but in business, they can change very quickly.
Yeah.
In terms of how you apply.
Yeah.
Well, so this is good. We're going to get into that marketing a little bit more, but let's know a little bit more about you too. I picked you because you're a successful nurse entrepreneur, and I'm very interested to hear, how do you define success?
Well, it's really about your values, right? And about, what do you define, every one of us is going to define success differently. So for me, it is really, am I able to move someone from where they are to where they want to be, if they're willing to do the work? Okay. There are going to be people you've got to realize that you sign a contract with, and they are engaged and they get involved with you. And within the second or third week, let's say you have a 3-month program, all of a sudden they stop. Okay. You got to, it happens. People stop for whatever reason. But the success is, did you maintain your integrity? Did you maintain your, your values when you're working? Did you give it your all? Where can you improve? Where can you get some more help? Really looking at how are you being when you're dealing with people, your clients, your customers, your potential customers, all of that. Are you being who you want to be? Right? That's success. I rather have that feeling of success rather than a monetarily, I made 20,000, 30,000, 10,000, 5,000. That's not for me what it's all about. It's about, am I being the best person I can be? Yeah, I want to make money and I have a successful financial business in place, but am I growing as a person, right? Am I growing, and am I giving it my all to the people I'm working with? That's what I think success is in the business world.
I just love hearing that, Dallas. Thank you for being willing to share that. I want to remark on that and acknowledge it because it's quite different than what I hear in other business circles that are not nurses. it's those people, their definition of success often starts with money, and then it includes, things they can do, places they can go, things like that, which are all great. But the things that you just listed as far as personal fulfillment and staying in your integrity, staying true to who you are and your authenticity as being high values, I really believe that's probably because of your nursing background and you're choosing those values right from the get-go, and staying and bringing those along with you into business, because you're putting your quality of life as the highest value, and ethics, integrity.
Yeah. Yeah. And the other thing is, I think also, because I've been in marketing a long time online, a lot of people, we don't really know if they're making that kind of money. We don't really know if that's their car they're standing in front of. We don't really, there's a lot of smoke and mirrors in marketing. You've got to be very clued in and vet. You want to be vetting people you're working with. Okay. Yes. And the most important thing for me is I don't want to say how much I'm making every week or month. I rather demonstrate it in, here's a testimonial of someone I've worked with. Mm-hmm. And this is really from nursing, right? Mm-hmm. It's the leader in me, right? The leader, we're all, the nurses, the leader, we're nurses, we're leaders. Yeah. Is the patient, is the client being successful? Are they progressing? Are they getting the outcome? That's the measure of success, right? That's a measure of, more of a measure of my worth as a provider, of a leader, of an educator, of a coach, than it is that I just made $10,000.
Absolutely. And I forgot to acknowledge that on what you said earlier, because you said that right up at the beginning, is your idea of success is really helping the person get the outcomes that they're there for. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. We call it patient focused in the healthcare system, but it's client focused, customer focused. It's the same thing. We're putting that person first, and meeting their needs is topmost. Yeah. What we're up to. Yeah. And that, as gives more credibility to your worth to somebody who is considering working with you. Oh, so-and-so got this result. So-and-so got this result. Social proof is so much more, has more weight than I made $10,000. Although the shining object of making $10,000 or standing in front of a BMW or whatever, it drives us crazy, right? It's like a trigger. Yeah, it does trigger us. It gets our attention, right? And we lean in. Yeah. But you want to really see, are they getting other people results? Are you getting people results in what you say you can get them results in? Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Wonderful. Thank you. Well, I'd love for you to share a little bit more about why you started your business. You shared some in your bio. Is there anything that you could share so that nurses get a sense of, like, what was that transition like for you? Oh. Wow. Okay. So originally I was going to, it's interesting. When I was in my 30s, I had a girlfriend, and we created a nonprofit organization called SONIA, Society of Nurses in Action. Okay. And we were going to educate nurses, the leaders, how to be more leadership out there in the world, because at that time, I mean, I'm older than, I'm old. So, way back when, it was like there was no place to go. You were like a staff nurse, you were a clinical nurse specialist, you were kind of stuck in the hospital. And yet we felt we had so much more to give, right? Or to lead. Well, how could we make a wider impact? So we held our first, program. I think three nurses signed up. I brought in a speaker. But what's interesting is all of us that were the founders of that organization, we all found these leadership programs, and we went off on our merry way.
but it was always my dream. How can I impact nurses to become more leader, be more the leader that they are out in the community? So, 20, 30 years later, kind of 30 years later, here I am, no job, jump into internet marketing, and I decide I'm going to teach nurses how to build their entrepreneurial businesses online. Okay, so this is 15 years ago. There were no entrepreneurial nurses online 15 years ago. So I had a blog and nobody was coming to it. And there was like one other nurse, but she was doing really good because she was IT, so she was doing good online. But, I was going nowhere. So I kind of had a shift and turn and went into affiliate marketing and network marketing. And then I started doing ads for brick and mortars. And then about 3 years ago, I got an opportunity to show a coach how to market her business online. Now, I had 10 years of experience in all different areas of marketing online. I was able to pull together a way for her to market her business. And within, here I'm going to tell you how much money she made, but within 8 weeks, she got $10,000 in sales.
Wonderful.
So I was like, it works.
Yeah.
So I decided to go back to my former love, my first love, but not just for nurses, but any coach. I could show you how to build your business online, through digital marketing and sales.
Yeah.
So, and that's what I've been doing for the last 3 years.
That's great, Dallas. That's great. I wish I knew about you back when you started because I was online at that time. I had an online continuing ed business, completely 100% online. It was for CE for nurses and nationally certified massage therapists and body workers.
Wow.
And I was desperately looking for somebody to learn marketing from.
Oh dear.
And I tried some of the people at that time, some of the people that are well known now were just beginning, like the product launch formula guy and, some of these other people. And I took that stuff and I couldn't translate it into what I was doing as a nurse.
It was hard. It was hard.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense.
I could get little pieces, but I didn't have a mentor to help me put it together, like the way we were talking about earlier. And it would have been great. How great if we would have crossed paths back then.
Yeah.
So thank you for that little back part of your history. So now, what tips would you like to share today with the listeners about how to market? Here's the thing. I framed this event around nurses who are feeling embarrassed or apologetic or like they're asking too much when they're trying to make their offers. And I did that because I hear that so much from the nurses that I coach and mentor in marketing. So I'd love for you to share a few tips with us.
Yeah. I think why that comes up for people is because you haven't yet done the work prior to making the offer, right? So in marketing online, you got to do a lot of the other work first before you start making offers. And what that looks like is you got to get visible. So what does that look like? There's a way to get visible, and there's a way to get visible that's passive. So for all the, introverts out there, you're not like sticking your head out and saying, look at me, look at me, look at me. You're not doing that. There's a way that you have to set things up. If we're using Facebook, your cover photo, all the descriptions, you need all these things because people are going to start, once you start inviting people over to you, you've got to build an audience first. Once you start building an audience, they're going to start checking you out. Like, what's happening on your Facebook page? Let me click this. Let me click that. What's going on here? So this is passively getting visible in front of people. So they're starting to find out about you. You got to think about it. Like if you're buying a higher end product or a product on Amazon, aren't you checking all the reviews out? Aren't you comparing this one to that one? But it's all being done behind the scenes until the person clicks, right? So there's lots that you can do prior to even saying you have anything to sell, right? Then you want to build your audience up. And you want to start nurturing them with some content, right? We call it content. It's just information. You're teaching. You're great teachers out there. It doesn't matter if you're a nurse or you're not a nurse. You know how to teach, right? You know how to tell someone how to do something. And in your own business, you take pieces of what you teach in your programs, you break it down into bite-sized pieces and you teach it. And then you see how people respond to it. And you're like, oh my God, somebody responded. And you start getting back and forth. And you start these ping pong conversations with people in the comments, in Messenger. You're warming people up to you. You're testing it out. And you're getting more confident as you see people getting, reacting to you. Okay. So you're still not selling. You're just feeling the vibe. You're just getting people warmed up to you. Okay. And then maybe you do a 5-day workshop or a 1-day masterclass, and you invite everyone that's your friend, or in your group to come, and less people will come. Remember, it's a funnel. The more people you invite, less people will drop out at the end. And you teach during that workshop or that masterclass. And at the end of the masterclass, you say, hey, you want more of this? This is what I have to offer. And it's a smooth transition, okay? It's a smooth transition. And some people will say yes, and more people will say no. That's just the way it goes, okay? But if you start doing all the work that you have to do prior to even making an offer, promoting your program or service or course or whatever it is, if you do all the work prior, that invitation, and look at it as an invitation to work together on a common problem that the person has that you've got the solution to, you'll feel less icky about the sales process. It's all an invitation. Just change it into, instead of selling or salesy, say it's an invitation to come to your party. It's an invitation to come to your house. I look at the groups, Facebook group, as the back of my house. Then the profile, personal page, is the front of my house. So I invite people to the front of my house, and then eventually I say, hey, there's more in the back of the house. Party, come back there. And that's where we go deeper into training in the group, because we know they're a hot lead. And that's kind of how that's how I want you to see it out there. There's so many other steps leading up to it that it becomes so natural. But if you don't have a system in place to systematize all of these things, it does become chaotic and you won't go anywhere. You will crash and burn. You've got to put some systems in place in each one of these areas to help you. You're turning a machine now. It's called the marketing sales machine that unfortunately you got to become an expert in, or you got to pay someone for it. So in the beginning, you become the expert, because most coaches starting out, you don't have that kind of resources to pay someone to do all the marketing and sales for you. Eventually, you can start delegating it out and hiring people to do it for you. So that's basically what I would say.
Yeah, thank you. I think that's very valuable. It's too bad that this is recorded in a way, because I'm sure there'd be questions right there from the audience that people would love to engage with you around. But, I know that you're available through your Facebook group. And also, so I'm going to ask you to give your contact info. Why don't you go ahead and give that now?
Sure. So I'm on Facebook. My name is Dallas, like the city. My last name looks like piano, but instead of the O at the end, it's an A, so it's Piana. I'm on Facebook. I have a group for coaches called Coaches Scaling Secrets and Strategies Using Facebook. You can ask to join in there. I also have a free resource for you if you're interested, and that's really, if you're just starting out, it's what you want to do is a worksheet on creating your customer avatar. And what that is your perfect client. What would your perfect client look like? And so I kind of bring you through some of the principles behind creating a customer avatar, why you need a customer avatar, what's the purpose of the avatar, and then, you know, some triggers, some questions to answer so you can fill out what your perfect client would look like. So that is a great resource to have.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. So everybody, there's a button right below this video where you can, if you click that, it will take you to Dallas's website where you can get this free gift, the worksheet on your identifying your ideal client. And let's see, anything else, Dallas, that you'd like to share with?
You know, just know that you're in it, you know, when you're marketing your business online, which most people are doing right now, okay, given what has happened in the last couple of years, is you got to know you're in it's for the long haul. It's a long game, okay? There will be ups and downs, just like with every other business in life, okay? There are great people to associate with online, you know, so don't be afraid. You know, we all think we're talking to this, you know, the void, right? But you can make incredible friendships and connections with people online from all over the world. And, you know, don't be afraid of it. You know, don't be afraid of it and jump in. You got to jump into the deep end to swim, you know, to learn how to swim almost. You know, it's like, it will happen if you stay the course, but definitely get yourself with a mentor or a coach for sure. It will decrease the learning curve by years, and I mean years, because I'm sure Sharon and I both, starting out, you're spinning your wheels trying to figure it out. It's not innate, right? The marketing is not innate until you're shown the way, and then it's like, oh, of course, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So true. It'll save you years, and it might even save you to stay on the course. So a lot of people just give up after struggling for a year or two, rather than having that help that they needed and making it cross that threshold. So I'm with Dallas. It's really important to get a coach or a mentor to help you. So Dallas, thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure.
And I want to thank you in the audience for being here with us. You've been listening to Sharon Burch and Dallas Piana for the Respectful Marketing Tips for Caring Nurse Entrepreneurs event. Remember, you can watch all of our interviews through Sunday, September 18th, and then they come down. So thank you and have a great day.